Breaking news. Excel Castillo, former promising athlete, is suing his parents Nova and Chase Castillo for a violation of his autonomy.
Excel is suing for damages as well as to create a legal precedent so that extreme biological enhancement injuries do not happen again in the future. It's 30-50. Genetic enhancement is no longer rare. It is built into the structure of elite society. In competitive fields like athletics, admissions, and corporate hiring, enhanced individuals consistently outperform those who are not. While not legally required, enhancement has become fundamentally necessary for those seeking to remain competitive at the highest level. Let's dive deeper into the story.
Excel Castillo was born into this world. Raised in an elite family, he was genetically designed for peak athletic performance from the start. As a 22-year-old male from New York City, he was raised in a well-off upper-class family of athletes, genetically enhanced athletes. Training, athleticism, and a powerful upper body was highly praised in his family line, as is common in the elite class. But today, as a society, we're asked a disturbing question. Have designer children gone too far?
At just 15 years old, Excel was a promising rock climber and CrossFit phenomenon, breaking state records for rock climbing in high school alone. Excel Castillo was an athlete on the rise, widely seen as a product of both training and design.
By 20 years old, Excel had a body the elite class dreamed of. Strong core, huge biceps, and bulging trap muscles. But that success came at a cost no one predicted, or perhaps no one wanted to acknowledge.
2 weeks before his 21st birthday, Excel Castillo became paralyzed from the waist down. Medical reports suggest that his genetically enhanced upper body developed at a rate that his spine just could not structurally support. The result? Catastrophic spinal failure. What was once engineered as perfection became irreversible damage. Following his injury, Excel shifted his focus toward holding his parents accountable for the genetic decisions that shaped his condition, which now cannot provide the opportunities that they once did.
I want justice, man. My family's gone too far, and honestly, they've probably been going too far for a few generations now. I mean, just look at my dad. Sure, we're great athletes, but the fact that people are allowed to go crazy with their genes, exposing their children to unnecessary and dangerous risks down the line is unacceptable. And for what? We need to do better. For our humanity, for our society, and for our children.
We have to acknowledge that this case is not happening in isolation. The case unfolding is under the current genetic regulation, which allows parents to select both therapeutic and enhancement traits for their children. Under the current law, the Genetic Responsibility and Parental Rights Act of 3025, parents are permitted to select genetic traits for their children, including enhancement traits, as long as they work within the approved medical guidelines. Clinics are required to disclose risks and evaluate overall bodily compatibility, but long-term outcomes and acceptable risk levels are not always clearly identified. While the law does recognize that children have an interest in their future body integrity, parental decision-making still holds significant weight. However, the law also states that parents and clinics can be held liable if those decisions involve clear negligence or disregard for known risks, especially in cases where multiple enhancements may create long-term instability. In recent decades, courts have begun addressing consequences of genetic modification. In Neogen versus Rivera in 3029, parents were held partially liable for selecting high-risk neurological advancements that resulted in long-term harm.
In State v. Kessler 3038, courts went further, recognizing that certain forms of genetic design could violate a child's future autonomy when those changes were irreversible and non-therapeutic. Together, these cases establish two important ideas: that genetic decisions can create legal responsibility, and that a child's autonomy may be relevant even before birth. But they stop short of addressing cases like Excel's. This creates a legal gray area. Enhancement is legal, but when those choices result in serious, lasting harm, courts must now decide whether those decisions have crossed the line into negligence. This leaves the court with a difficult decision. When does optimization become negligence, and can a child sue their parents for the body that they were engineered to have?
I mean, I'm devastated for my son, and seeing something that he loves so dearly be ripped away from him so soon, it's just devastating. But I don't know why I'm being painted out as the bad guy. I did nothing wrong. I wanted to provide Excel with the best life possible, so we did what we thought was best. Neither I nor Excel's father acted with any malicious intent to our own son. We gave him the world. How were we supposed to know what could happen? I mean, as parents, we have responsibilities to raise, care for, and nurture our children as we see fit. Why wouldn't we use the resources available to us to help our child have a better life? Genetically modifying in utero is nothing new. And so with that, I asked again, how could I have known what would be the
In
outcome?
elite communities, genetic enhancement is not just a choice, it is a standard. Enhancement is closely tied to access. Top athletic programs, competitive academic institutions, and even certain professions increasingly favor individuals with optimized traits. Without these enhancements, those often find themselves excluded, not by law, but by expectation. In many elite schools and training programs, enhancement profiles are reviewed alongside academic and athletic records. Students without optimization are often filtered out early, not because they lack ability, but because they simply cannot compete at the same level. Meanwhile, in lower socioeconomic classes, access to such technology is limited, creating an even greater divide between the engineered and the natural. This raises another question. Is this about parental choice or systematic pressure? Public opinion on this case remains deeply divided. While many in the elite class continue to embrace genetic enhancement, others argue that this case represents a dangerous overreach of parental power.
And I mean, look at all the people out here who are against this kind of thing. They're not here to directly support me necessarily, but they're with me on the fact that my family and people like my family have gone too far. They showed up today to make that clear. My clients, Chase and Nova Castillo, are undoubtedly innocent. We must recognize that gene editing is a legally sanctioned and socially accepted practice. It operates under regulations, guidelines, and industry standards, and they follow these standards. Like any established procedure, there are regulations, guidelines, and expectations that help keep everyone safe. With this in mind, Chase and Nova Castillo did not do anything wrong. They simply wanted the best for their son and acted on it. In a world where success is increasingly shaped before birth, choosing not to enhance your child is not neutrality, it is neglect. We already make decisions for our children that shape their futures, education, environment, and opportunity. Genetic enhancement is simply a more advanced extension of that responsibility. There is no world where they ever foresaw, intended, or even thought that paralysis was possible. They were under the impression that this was a safe and controlled procedure. So with this, we must ask ourselves, is it wrong for parents to act on their preferences for their child's future, especially when society rewards those very traits? To criminalize this would be to criminalize parenting itself. We are no longer living in a world where outcomes are left to chance. We have the ability to reduce limitations and increase potential, and with that ability comes responsibility. Parents are expected to prepare their children for the realities of the world they will enter. In this case, that world rewards strength, performance, and optimization. Choosing enhancement is not about control. It is about removing barriers before they ever exist. To deny a child those advantages when they are available, it is not neutrality. It is a decision to leave them behind.
Yeah, so the reason this case is so important is because autonomy is so important. This case is not just about one family, it's about a system that defines which bodies are valuable and which are not. When enhancement becomes the standard, choice becomes pressure. Chase and Nova Castillo knew there was a risk of unsafe upper body growth, but continued to gene edit Excel's DNA. Excel was not simply given opportunities, he was shaped to meet a specific ideal. An ideal driven by elite expectations of performance, success, and physical optimization. This is not just parenting. What we are seeing is not individual choice. It is a system that shapes which bodies are allowed to succeed. When enhancement becomes the standard, it stops becoming a choice and becomes a requirement. One enforced not by law, but by access and expectation. And when only certain groups have access to that level of control, what we are left with is not just advancement, but a system that reproduces inequality. This is not simply about improving the human body. It is about deciding which kinds of bodies are worth investing in and which are not. This is control over biology itself, and when only certain groups have access to that control, what we are left with is not just enhancement, but a system that reinforces inequality across generations. So even early on into gene editing, our society was learning the risks of underestimating the negative effects of gene editing. As early as the very late 20th centuries, chickens were being genetically selected for a larger upper body, quite similar to how Excel was modified to be. This selection proved to be too much for the chickens' bodies, and they were actually not able to stand on their own, collapsing under their own weight. So why do we think humans are going to be any different? Saying they didn't know the risks is negligence. Just because the genetic modification was successful for Excel's father, Chase, does not mean it's going to be successful for Excel. Bottom line is, Excel has been wronged. as well as all the other children who have been genetically altered to fit the elite upper class definition of beauty and athleticism. Excel is not the only one to have this happen to him, where genetic enhancement has gone too far, but let's make him the last. We call for a regulation of CRISPR and all other gene editing technologies immediately. While Chase and Nova were doing what they thought best, it is clear that Excel's autonomy to choose his life, his interests, and his future were terribly violated. This needs to stop now. When traits are selected and intensified across generations, what we are seeing is not just enhancement, it is directed evolution, driven not by survival, but by social expectations. And like any system built on optimization, it creates risks, especially for those who cannot opt out. Because the system rewards optimization, it also incentivizes pushing biological limits beyond what the body can safely sustain.
In families like Excel's, enhancement is not a single decision. It's a legacy. Traits are selected, refined, and passed down, often left with increasing intensity in each generation. But as expectations rise, so do the risks. With each generation, those traits are often pushed further, increasing both performance and the potential for instability. This case challenges not only the actions of the family, but the system that made those actions seem necessary.
Is parental genetic choice an extension of existing reproductive rights, or a violation of a child's future autonomy? When success is engineered, who's responsible when it fails?
As the court prepares to rule, one question remains. Is this progress, or has it gone too far? Stay with Channel 11 News as this landmark case continues next week. Thank you for watching.